Good morning, everybody. I am Fire Lotus, and this is another live morning witches chat. I did want to state the live that I just did. I had a notification flash on my phone. So at any point in time, if this gets really, really laggy, please let me know. But before I do anything, I love the smell of this. This right here, if anybody is curious, I always do this. I always use this in all of my lives. I actually have to get some more very soon. This right here is sage vibrational spray. It is charged under the full moon with moon water. It is created by my amazing gifted friend who I call the Herbal Alchemist, who is the owner and operator of Three Sleepy Eyes Apothecary. She has the sage spray for the people who can't burn sage or just don't want to. She has naturally dyed blue Florida water. All of her products are completely 100% organic and homemade, or at least homemade. I believe they're organic too, but all homemade. She grows the majority of all of her things. You should totally check her out. She has teas. She has ritual soaps. She has banishing soaps. She has shampoos. She just released and just finished a new conditioner. So yeah, you should totally check her out. But with that being stated, I am Fire Lotus. This is the weekly, daily, live morning witches chat that I do Monday through Friday. They start off anywhere from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes they can start at 9, but here recently they've just been starting around 10 something. These videos normally do not have a subject. Sometimes they do. I go over everything except for politics. Good morning. Yeah, I go over everything. I turn these into a podcast, and then come Saturday, good morning, everybody. Come Saturday, I wind up uploading all of these lives or transferring all of these lives to my YouTube page. So if you're viewing this on my YouTube page, hello. If you're listening to a podcast, hello, and thank you so much for listening to them. So yeah, got that out of the way. Was there an issue? No, yesterday's live, I was able to upload them on both sites, so they should be on Spotify, Castbox, and in the Apple Cast store. This particular live, it is kind of going to have a little theme. For most of the people that know, I received the first of the 2 books that I ordered, and yeah, I'm not going to go over a little bit because, again, I'm still reading, but there are some, actually, it's just in the, there are a few things that I want to read out of this book. Highly recommended already, though. But, gotta advertise for the Astro Matrix app, like I always do. By the way, all of these advertisements, it's completely free. I'm not being paid by anybody. They're just great products, great apps. Three Sleepy Eyes Apothecary, an amazing person, an amazing business. Again, she has an Etsy, Facebook, and an Instagram. Totally check her out, Three Sleepy Eyes Apothecary. The next thing and the last thing that I'm shouting out, it is an Astro Matrix app. That's what it's called, Astro Matrix. It is... Yes, I actually started the book last night. I'm a slow reader depending on my environment, but I will get to that. But I have started it. The Astro Matrix app, though, it is a completely free app. You can find it in both stores. The Apple Store and Google Store or Play Store or whatever you want to call it. They do have a subscription plan, but basically everything is free. You do get some ads, but that's fine because what you're about to get on this app is amazing. Morning! No, you don't have to apologize. I am hoping Australia is doing a little bit better. I know they're still having fires, but I did share a post. Some of the places that the fires have been extinguished, there's already new growth. And the pictures are so powerful as well because like you're seeing like scorched earth, and then you're seeing luscious green new life just busting out of it. It's amazing. But I am still sending energy to Australia as well. That's also going to be another topic, Australia and the world in this life. But Astro Matrix, download the app. The only thing you're going to need when you download it, 3 things. If you do create an account, which is free again, go to the settings and make sure your GPS is turned on. That way, the percentages and where the planets are, it's like specifically to your location. But basically, what this app is going to do, it's also going to create a personalized horoscope in a way. You enter your date of birth. I mean, not date of birth. Well, yeah, your date of birth and the time you were born and the location you were born at. That pulls your natal chart and or birth chart. For the people that don't know what that is basically a screenshot of the sky at the exact moment you came into this world. With that, you can do so many things. It breaks you down. It breaks your entire personality down. It can break major life events that will happen or have happened. It can also, using your natal chart, you can look at patterns that for some reason keep repeating. But with that and when it pulls, it gives you hourly updates and daily updates of what planets where, what planets in what house, how that could affect you, things to look out for. But yeah, it's free. Again, Astro Matrix, you should totally download it. I've been using it for technically 2 years now, since it's 2020, and I use it every day. I have it on all of my devices. It has saved my life. It has prevented me from getting into arguments or anything like that, because it gives you updates. Like, for an example, one of my planets, Mercury, is in one of, I should have wrote this down. One of my natal houses is passing into one of my natal houses. So for like the next week, I have to be very, very careful of how I approach situations involving that could potentially become an argument. I have to be very cautious with how I approach it, because my energy is going to be extremely high, and I'm in Aries. Solarly, I'm in Aries. You do have 2 different types of horoscopes. You have a lunar horoscope and you have a solar horoscope. I mean, not horoscope. Zodiac. But, yeah. So, amazing. Hold that thought. I just got a text from my partner. Okay. Okay, I'm back. Making sure nothing was going on. But, yeah, amazing app. I use it. Again, I've also talked to the creator of it. She's an amazing woman. But yes, so I got that out of the way. I got my podcast and my videos. Oh, for the people who hasn't, yesterday, which if you've been following these lives, you already know the content that I talked about in the 2 videos that I posted yesterday on my YouTube page, specifically for my YouTube page. I will admit it did feel good making smaller videos, and getting back at doing that again. But for those who haven't been keeping up with these and are new to these, I did a video yesterday where you can use the leap year in Magic, which we are currently in. 2020 is a leap year. And I also go over what decade water is and how you can make some really, really powerful water. Magic water. So, yeah. If you haven't already, go check that out. Fire Lotus the Witch. Last update, and then I'm getting into the nitty gritty. I did change my Instagram name. The only thing that I actually changed to it is I took the underscores out. So now it's just in one word, Fire Lotus the Witch Instagram tag. So, yeah. Okay. With that all out of the way and all said, if you hear a dog barking and or a cat, the cat is my familiar. He gets pissed off because he is locked out of the craft room when I do these. And then the dog is my neighbor's dog, and they have livestock. So, yeah. If you hear any chainsaws or any type of construction or loud noises, I also can't help that either. I don't know if they're going to be out here, but my neighbor was having some trees removed yesterday, and this is, the room that I'm in is the closest to their property of where they were at, so I do apologize in advance for that. Which I'm not even going to get started on the whole tree removing process. Like, I understand there are some trees that you should remove, because they could just be hazardous to your property, but at the same time, if you cut down a tree, for one, use every aspect of that tree, and then for 2, plant 2 trees to every tree you cut down. That should actually be like a federal law, that every tree you cut down, that you have to plant another tree. Now, what I mean by that is because if you live in America, depending on what your life is, you know, shit's expensive. So you shouldn't necessarily have to go out and buy a tree, but plant something new, in other words. If you take from it, and that should be incorporated in anything worldwide. Every time you take from nature, you should give back at least twice. And that's just it creates this, to truly live in nature and to truly slightly be harmonized with it. And this is one thing that at certain points in human history, we've realized that, but at other points, due to money and greed, we kind of strayed away from. But there's a very, very fine balance of giving and taking. All throughout nature, you see this. But if you look at animals and how they interact with their environment, they're not like us. They don't take what they don't need. They only take what they need to survive. And I honestly believe that we need to get back into that. As humans in general, we need to, instead of fighting or ripping and destroying all this land and all these, this nature, basically, these forests, to create new condos, especially here in Florida. Like, I'm not native to Florida. I wasn't born here, but I've lived here 5 years, and I used to go to Panama City. To anybody who went to Panama City Beach during the 90s, and what it looks like now, it's fucking scary. Like, Panama City is not what it used to be, due to all the condos and everything like that. Well, in certain parts in Florida, you do have certain construction restrictions due to the environment, or just due to, there are certain parts in Florida where, like, we can't have basements due to the fact that we live basically primarily of all Florida, not all of it, but the majority of it, aquifers. And then there's also, we have some restrictions on the height of how much you can go. But here, just living in, when I did live in Gainesville, and then just living where I'm living at now, and to see in a very short amount of time of how much these cities, like Gainesville, for example, within the 3 years that I actually lived in Gainesville on Archer Road, the expansion, and to see how fast it just exploded outward, it would drive me crazy. Now, Gainesville is a very distinct and unique city. Besides having the United States, UF there, the University of Florida, Gainesville is also known as the city of trees, because we have more trees in Gainesville city limits than we do, I believe, of any other city. And in Gainesville, even though you do have parts to where it's smack dab, like in the city, you can still turn a road and there's a nature reserve smack dab in the middle of it. So, like, Gainesville has done a really good thing with keeping nature in with it, but we need to, and I know for a fact there are other places throughout the country and throughout the world who have actually started doing this, but the United States really needs to. Instead of cutting down all these trees and stuff like that, we need to start investing in ways of kind of almost like tree houses, but like finding a way to not build against nature, but incorporate it in with the new expansion and all this other shit. But don't get me started with the whole tree removal, because my neighbors here have been pissing me off. They move out to the country. There's a private lake here, so like anybody who lives around it, it's country, right? And then you have these people cutting out and like changing the environment and all this other shit to make it look pretty and all, like you're living in a city and you have neighbors to show it off to. Move back to the fucking city. Don't move out to the country. Now, what I mean by that is, if you're doing stuff on your land and you're changing the environment for the better, aka gardening or something like that, I understand that. But if you're doing it purely for aesthetics, move back to the fucking city. Why come out here and destroy this perfect environment? For example, all the neighbors on our side of the lake, they primarily cut, like, and if they have kids, I understand why they do this, but they make sure their yard next to their lake looks just like perfect all year round. Again, if they have kids, I understand that due to snakes, wildlife, and stuff like that. But me and my partner, on the other hand, our yard, minus where the fire pit is, because I do trim around that a little bit where my circle is, we try to keep it as wild as possible. Now there will come a point in time where I will go out there and cut everything down right before spring gets here, just for new growth and everything. But yeah, no. It drives me crazy. I've also realized that we have more wildlife that comes in our yards prior to anybody else in the surrounding neighbors. Sorry, I got really quiet. Like, I hate this room. I can hear every car that pulls up when they pull up, and it drives me crazy. Um, Mainly because a car can pull up like in the neighbor's yard next door, and it sounds like they just pulled up in my yard. Um, okay, yes, the neighbors. I hear them talking. Anyways, so sorry about that little rant. I'm very passionate when it comes to the environment, especially here in Florida. But and before I start talking about this book, I also will be going over the Medicine Wheel Meditative Oracle deck. There we go, I said it right. But yeah, we'll be going over the 10th one in the deck of that one. Later on, I believe sometime last week, I was talking about the river stones and how I'd found a specific special one during, I believe, Thanksgiving. This was the stone that I found. And for the people that are listening to this and not watching, it looks like a little Buddha or a little goddess statue. Naturally found. So yeah, the reason I showed this off now is because I mentioned it in that video, I think 2 weeks ago, or way back then, but I didn't have it on me, so I couldn't show it. That was it. So, now the time that I'm pretty sure most people have been waiting for. Okay, for one, I grew up in Alabama. My family on my mother's side is primarily from Georgia. Which means I have which it doesn't mean that, but I also have, both sides of my family have Cherokee Native American in us. The reason that I stated that is because I myself have only went to the mountains a very few times. I went up in the mountains of Cheehaw, I believe it was Cheehaw Mountains, but it was in Georgia, went up there, and we stayed for 4 days for this huge, giant, family reunion, and I fell in love with it. There was this little cabin on this lake that was slightly, like, tucked in this, like, little nook that had surrounding mountains around it, and then there was another cabin up here to where you could see down. It was just perfect, and for some reason, I felt at home. Now, take in mind, I was probably, like, 8, 9, possibly 10. No, wait. I was younger than that. Yeah, I was about 7 or 8. But I felt at home. And I didn't understand it, but I was like, I never want to leave this place. Like, this is where I want to die. Like, and then I lived in Lineville, Alabama, which is basically just at the foothills of the Appalachians. It's where the end part is. But, Lineville, Clay County, which is where my father is originally from, in Alabama, that's all foothills. And then I moved to Anniston and Oxford, which is actually in the mountains, slight mountains that are in Alabama. And then I went to Mount Cheehaw, for a pagan gathering, a Mabon pagan gathering. And this may sound very weird. For the people that has experience, you may understand what I'm about to say, but it's very hard to put into words. When I went to actually the Mount Cheehaw Mountain, and then when I was ghost hunting with my partner and our old roommate, we went up into the foothills and the surrounding hills around the town that we used to live into. So, like, I actually got to see certain parts of the mountain life, or what, in that area and region, what would be the mountain life. I'm talking the old school, like, houses that they had, the little shed houses. I don't know the proper term, and I don't want to say anything that's going to be offensive, but, man, that energy up there when I went to the actual Cheehaw one, and, like, I had a moment to myself where I could just kind of take it all in. There was a deep, deep part, deep down in me, that felt home. Like, I don't understand because I'd never been here, but I felt as if I wanted to, at that moment, if I wanted to just go walk off into the woods and live off the land right then and there was a part of me that was just like, I could have done it. And I don't understand what that part is. I still personally have to do a lot of research to actually see if I do have any family ties that actually were linked there. And it also could have been some type of like a past life maybe. But the reason that's interesting, and one of the key things that I'm about to release from this book that I did not know, but I went to a universal church that had like pagan-ish classes, but they were more like college classes, but they were educational. They didn't necessarily teach you to practice as much as you were learning the history behind the gods, the goddesses, and all that stuff. I believe it was in that class, or it was after that particular class, I met somebody, my roommate had basically took a trip with a bunch of other of his friends through the Appalachians. They were driving through them. One of their friends was from Ireland, and she flipped the fuck out when she actually got into the mountains, and she's like, stop the car. And she has that like accent, that thick Irish accent. This is how he told the story to me. But it's what she said. They stopped the car, they found a place to pull off, and she started walking, and she went up and she touched one of the rocks. And she's like, it's home. And I can't exactly remember how she phrased it, but she basically stated that the spirit of those mountains and the spirit of those lands is the exact same, and I'm getting head to toe chills when I say this, is the exact same of Ireland. The exact energy and the land of the spirit of the island of Ireland in the land is also, she felt it there in the Appalachians. She felt it calling to her. Well, what is interesting, and I did not know this, is, let me see it. I did do some notes in here. Ha! Ha! There we go. Okay. So, nestled here in some of the oldest mountains on Earth, our people are a mixed breed of Irish, Scottish, German, and other settlers who came to call these hills home. This mixture includes the folk practices brought up through the slave trade and practices learned by the neighboring, I'm going to slightly butcher this word, indigenous tribe of the Cherokee, Creek, Salween, and the Delaware. I'm going to butcher those names, I'm sorry. These crafts speak from the unmarked graves of slaves, old church bells, and broken pottery fragments of the Cherokee strewn about the creek bed. It is the remnants of the deep roots and the testimony of the Appalachian Mountains. That's just the preface. Like, that, reading that, just reading the full preface, I had chills from head to fucking toe. Like, this book speaks to me in a way that no other book I've ever picked up has spoken to me. But some of the interesting things that I wanted to go over. For one, in Appalachia, for the people that don't know, and this is something I don't know how, I'm trying to understand it on I understand it on their way, but like a spiritual way, having issues. They primarily used the Bible in the Appalachian Mountains. And again, depending on what region, and it states in this book, depending on your family, depending on the region, and depending on the placement of where you grew up at in the mountains, or basically the practices are different. There are slight differences. There are slight tweaks of certain things. But it's very interesting because they use the Bible as a spell book. The majority of all of their spells, their prayers or proverbs or phrases from the Bible. And I grew up a Southern Baptist, so I do have a connection with the Bible. I do have a small weird connection with Christianity, but there's still a part of me at heart or deep down that's like, wait, I don't know how I feel about reading something that specifically, very complex. But basically, the way he explains it in the book is basically the reason they do that is because there's one phrase that he uses, and he's like, well, think about it. How would you respect your ancestors that have passed away that used to practice Christian, but still being able to practice the craft? And there's a more deeper connection between that phrase. Let me try to find it. I know I took notes. Let me see. Like, there's interesting facts in here about, there we go. Ha! Nope. Okay, well, anyways, I'll read some of the things that, this is one of the main ones that they use the passages from the Bible. Alongside from the heavenly law, the words of the King James Bible held power when spoken or written. The most famous verse here is the blood verse. I may butcher this. Ezekiel 16:6, which is used to stop bleeding in the man and beast alike. And when I passed by thee and saw the polluted in thy blood, thy own blood, I said unto thee, when thou when thou waste, if thy blood live, I said unto thee, when thou wasn't in the blood, thy blood live. Apparently, that is known to stop bleeding instantly. His particular grandfather, which is extremely rare apparently in men, he had the sight. Also, his great-great-great-grandfather never met his father, but apparently he had the sight. So he was known, but here's some other ones I got. Not often recited John 6:50 when baking bread. This is the bread that comes down from heaven, so that one may eat it and not die. But the particular thing that I specifically wanted to state. Okay. I've always talked about the difference between what society is saying is appropriating culture, like you're taking it and you're not doing it in a respectful way, and then what I try to preach. My mama was like that and used a verse to stop bleeding when you would get a cut. See, I heard about that living in Lineville. The guy that I was dating, his mother, they grew up in the mountains. So, like, I learned a lot of that. Okay, I will check out chapter 11. I don't want to look ahead just yet. I'm doing this book differently. Normally, when I get a new book, like, I flip through it. This one, though, I'm trying to actually just, as I read it, is when I discover it. After this live, because I believe I finished all the important things I was supposed to do today. And then I gotta wait until later on tonight to do all the transferring. So basically, I will be reading this book almost all day today, as much as possible. But I wanted to read this because it rang true, and it's also something that I stated, and it makes complete sense. Well, it's not something that I stated, but it's something along the lines that I preach, which is this right here. Wait, let me see. Okay. First step of the craft. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to read this ancestor work, this small 2 paragraphs. The first step of the craft is to acknowledge your ancestors. My ancestors included those into slavery with chains around their necks, and those made to walk in the trail of tears, African and native alike. The Scottish Irish was uprooted by adversity and poverty. Death and disease followed them, but they were accepted in these mountains and always will be. They endured torture and pain, and that would bring today's people to their knees. No human being deserved anything that was done to them. But look, my family and I are still here. That speaks to their perseverance and their strength to survive. This right here is the most important part. Their wisdom and practice were often all these people had when they arrived. The slaves had nothing but the stories and songs of their land, and the Cherokees held on tightly to their spirits and knowledge of the elders. Many elders died among the Americans or traveling along the Trail of Tears. This forced others to bear the weight of carrying the sacred through the world, often before the traditions would have normally allowed it. The group shared many things in common, things that were strong enough to outlive the difference of the culture and greed. All of them were broken and beaten down by the oppressed. Where did this go? Okay, sorry. Here we go. This is what I was supposed to read. Thomas. But that one part right there, talking about that this was all they had. And if people don't wake up and they don't start expressing this stuff, it's going to die. She's also, when I got a glass in my knee, she used baking powder and fatback meat to draw it back out. I've witnessed something like that. I've witnessed, I think, one of my friends had a staph infection, and they used fatback meat to draw it out. And I was like, but it worked. This right here. Let's see. Okay. My 8th great-grandfather, Frank Leet, was born into slavery to his slave mother, Esther, and his master, Thomas Lee. When Thomas died, Frank was granted his freedom. Discovering this information has changed my work with the ancestors profoundly. I now know that I am a descendant of slaves and of slave owners, that I contain the blood of those who were raped, murdered, and those who were raped and murdered. Many of you reading this are too. So we must ask ourselves, how can we purify the blood and redeem it? What in your life can you do now to atone for the sins of your blood? In our more recent past, we may see generational loops of absent fathers, addiction, and self-harm. We'll speak more on this later, but I want you to chew on those thoughts a little bit now. That right there, I believe, is one of the most powerful things so far that I've read in this book. What can we do to atone and to purify the blood that we have in our ancestors? Because if you grew up here in America, if you're from America, there is a very, very high possibility that, like they said, you have mixed. At some point in time, we had slaves, and then we had slave owners, but that is both mixed in our blood. So how do you go about that? It's just like it stated with here. For one, they used the Bible as, in a way, their spell book was because they were extremely isolated. And that was that. That's how, but at the same time, it also respected the ancestors that were not okay with that type of conjure, whatever you want to word it, whatever you want to call it. But so using the prayer, it kind of, in a way, I guess it was like comforted them. But like I stated before, I also believe that once we pass and we leave these vessels, that a lot of that earthy humanness stays with us. And like we, not necessarily ascend, but we lose some of the egotistical and all the other theories and theological shit that humans have set up in our mundane lives. But like I'm on page 3. So, but which I also had a lot of stuff here at the house going on last night. Nothing bad. So like, but just reading that in general, I was like, holy shit. And I do want to contradict something yesterday. Yesterday I stated in a live that I thought this book was just going to be stories and that was it. I was wrong. He describes in the Bible, he describes in this book at the very beginning, the only way to truly get his point and to truly pass on the wisdom and the words and the stories of the Appalachian people, he has to tell you the story of that he knows from his family. But there are things, the YouTube video that I posted on here a little bit earlier this morning, if you don't want any spoilers, don't listen to it because it is a podcast where they interview the author, and he talks a lot about it. He talks a lot about in the book. So if you don't want any spoilers, don't listen to it. But if you've ordered the book or if you want to know a little bit more about the book, totally listen to it. I've been listening to it right up into here. Sometimes that was the only book that people would own, let alone read regularly. Exactly. The Bible was one of the only ones that most people had. Most people always had Bibles. I'm German, Irish, Native American, and Black. Wow. See, I want to do something to where I can find more about my actual bloodlines and like what's... I do know for a fact already from the research that other family members have done. I have Irish descent, Cherokee descent on both sides of my family, my mother and my father's side. My mother's father, my great-grandfather, he was, I want to say he was about 80% Cherokee, to the point where there's one picture that I have somewhere. He grew his hair out, so he had long hair and a ponytail, and he had a pulled back jet black hair, but his cheekbones, like, he looks straight up like a full-blooded Native American, but I don't know that, and I want to do research. Yeah, it's funny you say Heinz 57. That is so funny that you use that, because that's a phrase that me and my old roommates used to use. But I'm kind of a Heinz 57 too. I have Irish in me, I know. We have something in us, and before anybody comes at me, this is what I was told it is called. Black Dutch. We have that in us. And from what I understand by that, somebody on my father's side, I think, no, my mother's side, married a, well, an African-American Dutch woman. If that is even a thing, apparently married into the family. And then, we have Irish. My Aunt Tammy actually did a DNA test, and she said that we had something in us that it was a mix from, I don't want to say the wrong place. Over there, well, actually, where shit's breaking out at, I'm going to say the Holy Land, where all the stuff from the Bible happened at. We have something in our bloodline that it's a mix of kind of that. I don't understand that. I didn't really get to talk to my Aunt Tammy about that before she passed away, so I'm going to have to wait until I can find, or I can get to a point to where I can do some type of DNA test or some type of deep dive into that. But I know I have Irish in me. The only reason I know that is because I've been obsessed with Ireland and everything about Irish from the time that I can remember, from like being a little kid. I used to get the CDs that they still, I think they still sell at Walmart. It used to be in the candle section. They were like the Native American, they had a Native American flute CD, but it was meditational CDs basically. There was one that's called The Light of the Irish or something, but it's an amazing CD, and I listened to that CD so much that my stepfather grounded me from it, and I'm not lying, he actually took it from me, because I would have it on repeat on my radio, and I'd go to sleep listening to it, and I used to sleep in until like 11 or 12 in the afternoon, so like, he would hear that CD playing constantly, but no matter what mood I'm in, no matter what emotional state that I'm in, you play any type of Irish music, and it automatically calms me. Like, there's a part of me that one day will go there. And then, like I stated, I've always been drawn to the Appalachian Mountains, and I've always been drawn to Native American and Cherokee. The thing that I'm trying to find out now, though, actually, is I had a question, I don't know if I asked it or something, but at one point in time, there's a map, I believe I've shared it on here, there's a website to where you can find out where all the tribes and Native Americans lived here in America, so you can actually find out, wow, I'm having a deja vu right now. You can find out where, like, what native tribe was on your land. And the reason you can do that is because it'll help. Well, you'll be able to do research into actually possibly looking at what you would give that specific tribe an offering and what they would like. But my question is, since I'm primarily Cherokee, would the Native Americans that are on this land, would they have an issue with me practicing on this land due to the simple fact they're completely two different types? I don't know if they had a history. The ones here in Florida, which were, they were primarily the Seminoles, and there's another one that was here. So, like, I'm trying to incorporate that, and then I'm like, would that, like, if you do have Native descent in your bloodline, like, would the Native Americans that are here pick up on that? Would they be okay with it? And so, see, like, that's the issue that it's not really an issue, but that's what I'm going through right now, is some of the questions that I've been having, I don't know how to find the answers to, and I don't even know if they are answers to it. But this book, so far, like, I'm excited. I can't remember from the top of my head the other book, but the other book, it basically almost the same thing, except for it's a different content. And the other book, if the description is actually right in it, it is actually, like, it's the book to actually help you set up and the practices and stuff like this. Which, this book right here, from what I can tell and from what I've read and heard in the podcast, there are recipes, there are prayers, there are rituals, there are something called stump water, which I have to do research on, but from what I gathered, stump water is from where water has fallen and it's in a stump, so it hasn't actually hit the soil. But there are a lot of different ways that you actually have to collect it, or the ways that they collected it. One of them is once you leave the house to get it, you can't speak to anybody until you get the water and come back, and then you have to walk backwards. So, like, yeah, I'm very curious, because one of the main reasons, what got me curious in this was when I lived in Lineville, I wanted to do, like, ever since I was 16, I've wanted to get into from what I originally, the first time I ever heard about it was, it's called granny magic. Or if that's another thing you can also look into, folklore, Appalachian folklore, or Appalachian conjure, Appalachian hoodoo, or Appalachian folk magic, it's also considered granny magic, aka all those wives' tales, all those old wives' tales. If you grew up anywhere in the South, then pretty sure at one point in time, one of your elders mentioned it. My aunt did, my Aunt May. She used to tell me that, because I used to have warts when I was younger on my fingers. I rubbed a penny on it, buried it, and forgot about it. There was another one where I cut a potato in half, rubbed it on there, buried it, and forgot about it. There was a mixture that she used to make, and I wish I could have got this recipe because I don't know what it is, but it was peppermint. This is going to sound very weird, but I guarantee you, if you were to make this, it will completely open all your sinuses up. But it was Pepto-Bismol, peppermints, like crushed up candy peppermints, and I think some type of liquor or alcohol. And you would basically just fill the jar up with those and shake it and, like, let it all break down, and then you would use it like cough syrup. Like, you would take a spoonful of it. And let me tell you, okay, I don't know if the Pepto-Bismol was right, but it could have been. I remember it being pink, but that could have been from the peppermint being used in it. But, I remember getting it, and it was almost like sticking a mouthful of vape rub, like Vicks vape rub, in your mouth. That's the kick that you got off of this. So, like, it opened up all of this as it went down your throat. It opened up your lungs, like, and ever since then, I was like, holy shit, like, I want to know more about this. So what I was told in a long, long time ago, many tribes banded together to fight the military, so many tribes are mixed, especially down south. Exactly, and that he kind of, at one point in time, he mentioned something like that. That's one of the reasons they're kind of like mixed. But what was a affirmation for me, or a validation for me when I got this book, was he stated that Native American wise, with the mixed tribes, it was Cherokee. I'm Cherokee. And during the time that I went to the May Bond Festival in the Appalachian Mountains was the same time that I started diving into shamanism or Native American practices, and it just all like lined up. And then for me to get this and read this, and some of the stuff that I've been reading from this, I've either thought, I've done, and then doing other research into folk magic and granny magic, I naturally, instinctively do stuff like that. I do some of those things. And it was just like confirmation that, for one, I'm on the right path, and for two, it is confirmation that we do have knowledge from our ancestors that are lying deep dormant in our blood that can be awakened. Now, with that, I don't mean that, like, one day you're going to touch a book and get a flash in your head and remember every single detail that your ancestor ever did. I don't think it necessarily works like that, but we do have memories and hidden knowledge very deep in us, and you don't even have to be a witch. Like it says in here, a lot of people, depending on the region, they didn't really even have a name for it. It wasn't considered a witch. You were just a healer or a preacher man. But his grandfather had the second sight, which apparently is rare for men to have. Normally it follows the females. I have second sight, aka what he describes that second sight is, or the Appalachian version of the second sight, is basically knowing things that you shouldn't know, or that you knowing things before they happen, knowing basically dreams, premonitions, gut feelings, instincts, stuff like that. So that in itself, but his grandfather could stop blood, he could stop a burn, he could stop the burning from you being burned. Like if you got burned by something, he could take out the pain from the blisters. So, like, I'm very, very interested in, I would say by midsummer, to see how much we've learned, how much I've learned, and how much this will affect my craft in a very positive way. I love doing stuff like this, and it's just, you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure all of y'all have had a moment where at some point there was slight doubt somewhere, and then you randomly picked up a book, or you got a new book, and like you're reading it, and it stated something that you either said, thought, or felt involving spirituality or the craft. And it's a huge validation for moments like that, because it's like, holy shit, that is the divine right then and there. That is the ancestors right then and there saying, hey, you're right, like, you're on the right path, keep going. And I'm hoping that exploring this side of researching it and reading these stories, I'm also hoping that it will help me connect to any of the ancestors. If I do have any ancestors that lived back in those days in the Appalachians, I'm hoping that it will help make that connection stronger, and they will be able to come forth, and I'll be able to connect with them. No, we're not talking about the Witcher season. We're talking about Backwoods witchcraft. Both my sons leave the site, and it's stronger than mine. I don't know if they inherited it from me, but there it is. Oh yeah, I have also realized that too from just doing the research from families that do have gifts. Normally, they do tend to skip a generation or to skip 2 generations. But they're very weird because, for example, with my gifts, as far as I know, nobody in my family that I have been able to ask or kind of interview has them. So it was kind of like I don't know. I don't know if my grandmother had them, or maybe my great-great-grandmother or great-great-grandmother had them. But for some reason, or for all I know, all of my family could have had them, and they just never found this calling, or they never answered the calling, so their gifts never developed. But yes, I will state that when it comes to certain gifts, from what I've gathered and from what I've done research on, a lot of them does say like it's normally a female thing, but of course men can have them too. And I mean that does make sense though. But he basically states in this book that for them it was just a way of surviving, and I love that. Like they just don't care, but at the same time they're kind of accepting. And it's just, yeah, I mean, I'm so fucking excited. But to slightly, and let me see, I think that, that's what I wanted to do. So, I want to talk about something else, slightly change this, because I will be, of course, y'all, I'll be, I'm pretty sure by the end of the next 2 weeks, y'all are probably going to hate me because I'm going to be talking about this so much. But, and of course the new book. But, I wanted to talk about some things that are going on in the world. Without bringing in the politics. We need, if you see this video, please, if you can, if you can't, if you don't have any candles, then just send some energy light, or some, energy. You can do the, energy orb. Basically, rub your hands together like this. And, like, I always just rub my hands together and then picture, like, this ball forming in my hands. And you set your intention as that ball is forming. You're like, you know, if you're going to heal a partner, say, or if you're going to heal somebody, you know, let this energy find that person and, you know, heal them. Do this. But due to what happened yesterday, I'm confidently going to say, sadly, that we're on a very, very weird teeter-tottering on that verge of basically about to be headed into World War III. Now what's insane to that is I saw a post earlier today, right before I jumped on here. Yesterday the Oracle card, which was the 9th Oracle card, it mentioned the Rainbow Warriors. I have to research what Rainbow Warriors are and the legend behind them, because the thing that I saw, and I shared on here, was basically stating that when the earth is going through hell, basically, when the animals are suffering, there will be a time and a place where a newer generation of people are going to step forward of different paths, different spiritual views, different religions, and they're going to step forth and bring change that we desperately need to bring a balance to it. And it rang true, and not to mention it was kind of like synchronicity of me mentioning Rainbow Warrior and then me seeing that. But it's kind of got me thinking, because right now we don't need a World War III. Like, no country on this fucking planet right now honestly can handle any type of war, and we don't need one. We need healing, if anything. And obviously, you know, when the world comes together and focuses their intent on something, and it's so funny that the mundane people haven't realized this, that almost every single time in a natural disaster that brings the world together on a certain date or a certain day to send out energy, have they not realized that normally shortly after that date, it clears up and it works? For example, I know that they're still having wildfires in there. I'm not a crossdresser. But you just got blocked. Wow, apparently I'm doing something right. I'm sorry, I don't know if I was supposed to take offense to that, but I took offense to that. So yeah, but it is still raining. I mean, I believe the fires are still going in the rainforest. Not the rainforest. In Australia. But, like I stated, there are pictures being released that all the places that were scorched, new life is busting out of them. And that also ties into, because we will be having one of them very soon, that ties into why I always say, or why I've started saying, that retrogrades, any of the retrogrades that you will experience this year, because there are a few. Now, I did want to state with the retrogrades and what I've realized, not all retrogrades are going to affect you in any way. Now, what I mean by that is, a lot of the times, some of the retrogrades will affect you generally, but the times that it really hits you hard, 9 times out of 10, what I've realized is that normally that means that you have a planet, or one of those planets that are in retrograde, it's actually on your birth chart, and that's the reason that it's affecting your life so much. So again, that's the reason I always talk about the Astro Matrix app, is because if you know that one of the retrogrades, it's in one of your houses, and it's about to affect you, there are ways and things to do and carry on you that can kind of, not necessarily protect you, but it can make everything that goes on around you a little bit easier to take in. And what I mean by that is, there are certain crystals you can carry around with you during those retrogrades that will prevent some things from happening. And I know there's 2 lists that I've made of crystals that I will carry with me when Mercury goes into retrograde, and I believe when Pluto goes into retrograde. And this particular year, it's going to be like year before last, or last year before that. We're going to have a bunch of planets going to retrograde. We're also going to have a planetary alignment this year. So, but the reason I wanted to state that is because at any point in time in the next few months, because for the people that are part of this community candle, you have to realize that if you start freaking out, if one of these retrogrades were to affect something in your life, and you start freaking out, that could affect the other people. What I mean by that is, it can also take away from the magic of that community candle. So during retrogrades, no matter how dark things could get or can get, always know that it's like, I'm not going to use that, but it's Phoenix energy. There's a reason that all of these things are moving out of your life. There's a reason that all these things are doing the way that they're doing. Mercury, though, and especially one planet that is right now, one of the things that I have to look out to that's going to be affecting me for the next week is communication, and to do with a job. And considering this is technically my job, because I'm disabled, yeah, so there may be some type of communication issues with me in this. I don't know. I'm looking into it. But with Mercury primarily, the only thing that I would definitely suggest is right before it does go into retrograde, make sure your tech stuff is backed up. Make sure your pictures are backed up. Make sure you have your passwords and stuff, like to where you can get access to them. And just be a little extra sensitive about dropping your phone. Don't talk on your phone if you're near water or anything like that, because normally, and your cars, with me in general, that's 2 of the main things that have affected me in the past when those retrogrades happen. And that's mainly because Mercury is over communication, transportation, travel plans. With that, when the Mercury grade does happen, during that time, I would suggest not to do any type of deals, contracts, agreements, anything like that. And the reason that is because when Mercury, and this also can be different if other planets are also in retrograde, but Mercury, what it tends to do, when it's in retrograde, when it comes to deals and contracts and stuff like that, like getting a new apartment or a new car or something like that, during retrograde, during that period, it may look better than the actual deal is. So I guess it may be fluffed up. So it's going to look like the perfect deal, and then once retrograde goes or once Mercury goes direct, following the weeks after that, you'll wind up seeing, oh shit, wait, I just walked into just a shit fest of shittery. So yeah, watch out with the contracts and stuff like that. And communication is always key with that. And what I mean by that is when Mercury goes into retrograde, um, which I do it even when it's not, I wind up over explaining myself. But just make sure the communication between you and whoever you're communicating with, make sure nothing gets twisted, and make sure everything's like direct and like, they understand what you meant by what you said and vice versa. Especially just while that area is around. Now, with that, if you do suffer from anxiety, I've also realized that the apps where you can you get like a tarot card of the day, which I use one of them, but they can sometimes bring anxiety. Like if I wake up and I feel great and then I read my horoscope or something to do with the planet and it's like, oh, look out for this, this, and this. Sometimes which I'm slowly getting out of it, but that used to set up my entire day right there. I was like, all right, well, my day is going to be shit. Let's get this over with. Try not to think of it that way. When you do get any type of thing like that, when it comes to horoscopes, tarot cards, a tarot reading, planetary update stating that, like mine stated, where I have to make sure that I keep myself in check when I go, that could possibly turn into an argument. You have to think of it as not this will happen, but this is my way of preventing it from happening because you know of it. It's just like, when your bills for your house and stuff. If you just never check your mailbox and just, ignore your bills, well, you're never going to know when they're going to hit. In order to get on top of it, and in order to be ahead of it, you have to know when that bill is going to hit and when it's due. It's just like that. When it comes to these retrogrades, the reason of doing research is to understand why those are happening, but not only that, but to also look at it as, okay, this is not negative. It may feel negative, but it is, in the end of it, it is going to be for a good, positive reason. But look at it as kind of like, well, honestly, your guardian angel telling you, look, here's your cheat sheet. That's kind of what I look at that Astro Matrix app when it comes to astrology. I kind of look at it as like a cheat sheet, because it may affect you, but there are tricks and trades that you can do to where it'll kind of blunt the impact of it. And trust me, there have been plenty of times in the past 3 years where I have basically panicked, and it was like Chicken Little the movie, if you've ever seen it. You know what scene I'm talking about. Yeah, it's bad. But I've also come to realize that, we're gonna have bad days. We're gonna have a few weeks of the year where, not everything goes to plan. Just because we're witches does not mean we are in control of everything. If so, God knows what this world would be like. But, at the end of the day, we do have a higher advantage due to the simple fact that we have the knowledge that a lot of people don't believe in. But we know it works. I know it works. Shit, don't get me wrong. I could die, and, whenever I do die, I could find out that all of this shit was wrong. Or I could find out all this shit's right. I don't know. But I know that I'm going to do everything that I possibly can in the living life to make sure I get the best out of it. But, to go back to that, for the people that do have anxiety, smoky quartz is a really, really good crystal to get and to wear or have on you. For one, it is a quartz, which means it can be specifically programmed. And the really cool thing is, if you have anxiety, I call them filter crystals, because they can be programmed to filter out your anxious thoughts. That way those thoughts don't really manifest, and only your positive thoughts, or the thoughts that you want to, will manifest. So in a way, I view the smoky quartz almost like a dream catcher. As in, a dream catcher, it captures, the bad dreams and lets the good dreams flow through the feathers. Well, smoky quartz does the same thing with your anxious thoughts. So, yeah. And then lavenderite, I love it. It's one of my favorite stones. But it is a manifestation stone, so watch carrying it with you. You can have it around you, just don't necessarily always carry it with you. I say that, and I always wind up having a piece on with me. But most of the jewelry that I wear, it was a gift. The lavenderite actually was a gift. It didn't originally look like this. Originally, it was wrapped in wire, but I've had it for so many years, the wire kind of went away, and I got polymer clay and created this. And then there's a crystal, clear quartz point at the end. But this is a birthday gift from my partner, so I'm always wearing it. And then that pentagram, which is hard to see because it's shiny, that was last year's Christmas birthday gift. So normally that's why. And then I also just have crystals, like the moonstone. I wear that because it helps, primarily feminine, but I've also realized for anybody androgynous or anybody that's two-spirit, it also works very well for that. And it helps. I mean, there are loads of other metaphysical properties behind rainbow moonstone, but that's why I wear it. And it kind of helps me keep in check. Not to mention, I learned that rainbow moonstone, lavenderite, and I believe sunstone are actually like brother and sisters. They're like sister stones, brother and sister stones to each other. And it's due to the flash that they have. The more you know, random facts. But yeah, I'm extremely excited to see how these two books turn out. Sorry, I'm not like all like right there. I only had enough for 1 cup of coffee this morning, so yeah, slightly lagging on the energy wise, but that'll be fine. Tomorrow I'll have more. But yes, I will go over this card, and then I will probably be cutting this short. I'm also really, really excited to just like be able to sit down and know that I won't be disturbed and just be able to get lost in this book, which is very weird because normally I would not, but I haven't gotten a book. I haven't got a book that I've really wanted in a really long time, so I'm like a little kid right now. I slept with this book beside me last night. I almost slept with it up under my pillow, and then I was like, no, wait, it'll get damaged. So this will basically be my Bible, and then when I get the other book, like, and I honestly have a feeling in like 2 years, this book is going to be so packed with like little sticky notes and everything. So yeah, but what else was I going to say? Was there anything else I was going to say? No, I don't think there was. Okay, so let's go over this card really quick. There was something I was going to say, but apparently. Later on today, though, I do plan on making 1 or 2 more short little videos. What I plan on doing, though, on my YouTube, I figured it out in a way that I can do this. Since these are normally like an hour to 2 hours long, and then I also turn these into podcasts, what I'm going to start doing, now, before I state this, I'm not actually going to state this is going to happen every single week. But the videos that I upload on YouTube, my ear. The videos that I'm going to start making, they're only going to be in the 10-minute range. So, like, they're not that long, which is going to be challenging for me. But yeah, so, and then eventually what I'm going to do very soon is I'm going to go on there and actually organize all of them. So all of the Facebook Lives will be in one playlist. All the other magical videos that I made before that will be in another playlist. And then later on this year, I'm going to get some help and go through and listen to all of those lives and all of my content to somehow try to edit it all down to like one thing. That way, when I do get more students, or when I start mentoring more people, they can go there. For the 2 people that I am mentoring, if y'all are seeing this right now, the best advice that I can give right now, go to my YouTube page. The Facebook Lives, all the lives on there, y'all don't have to watch those, but all the other videos that I have about different types of witchcraft and stuff like that, check those out and watch them. The reason that I'm saying is because I know it was asked by, I want to say one of the 2 of you, what books I suggested. On there, I give a book shout out. That may be one of my lives. I have to check that. But there are a bunch of videos on there that I made prior before I did these lives that I haven't talked about on these lives. So that would be one of the best directions that I could tell you to go. You don't have to watch them. You can also listen to them too, because I think there's only a few where I actually show stuff off. But yeah, that's going to be a best way to do, because on those I go over some of my books, my introduction video, my updated introduction, and then there are loads of other stuff that, because I have, I think, 70 something videos on there. So there's a bunch of content on there that a lot of the questions that you may have, you can watch those videos. And of course, if you have any questions at all, even watching them or after watching those videos, feel free to message me at any point in time. I'm not saying I'm going to respond right away, but I will respond to you that day that you message me. So a lot of the times when I don't respond to people that do message me, I'm not in the right place to where I can actually sit down, read everything, and then give you the correct, and give you the amount of time that I want to. So, and then the comments, if, like, you make a comment and I just like something, 9 times out of 10, that also means right at that moment, I'm not in the place to actually give you the time and to give you the attention to read everything to make sure I give the right advice. So yeah, a little tidbit there. But today's card, ooh, looks like I'll be listening to a podcast today too. Another podcast to listen to, because I know I still got to do the video to post the things of YouTube lists. That is something I haven't done. YouTube list of YouTubers, and a podcast, which is really good, is Things They Don't Want You to Know. The one that they just updated is What Happened to the Lost Colony, but those podcasts are really good. They go over primarily conspiracy theories and a lot of other stuff, but, yeah, check them out. Anyways, today's card is number 10, East, New Beginnings, Thought Process, and Inspiration. I love this artwork on here so much. Okay. And that card, New Beginnings, Thought Process, and Inspirations. As you look towards the east and watch the sun rise, feel the gift of inspiration growing within you. Be aware of a new path emerging before you. Before you take the first step, be well aware of your thoughts and energy that will ultimately shape your future as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let the passion and inspiration of the East card give you rise to a fresh start and a new horizon. The winter months of inner reflection are over. Spring is here, and it is time for making new plans. Begin prepping the soil and planting the seeds for your tomorrows. East card signifies that opportunities are coming your way to behold and seizing them. To behold in and seize them. No matter where our past has taken us, we are always here to change Let me start that over. No matter where our past have taken us, we always have the choice to begin again. The East card reminds us that change can bring us closer to our calling. Every day holds opportunity for growth, and every moment is a gift of life. And the affirmation and or prayer is, Spirit of power of the East, fill my heart with the illumination of the rising sun. Help me to accept the opportunities for growth and that are coming my way. The seeds I have planted today will be the future for generations to come. Let me be mindful of the energy I put into my thoughts and into my life. Now that in itself, there are so many great, amazing messages in that. But one of the main things that I took from that, and it kind of goes with the passage that I read right here, which is, the seeds we lead today, these videos that I'm making, these contents that I'm making, hopefully 20 or 30 years from now, they will still be out here, out there in the cosmos, out there on the web. which means the seeds that I'm planting today and the foundation and the soil that I've been working on, that we have been working on with this Fire Lotus page and all my Fire Lotuses and all my sprouts, we are planting, we are prepping the soil now for the next generations to come. So think about that all throughout today. Think about everything that you do, what you post, what you tell, what you speak, all that stuff. It's all, and your thoughts that you have today especially, they're all planting seeds, and eventually those seeds are going to grow. And I know this page will eventually one day become a luscious lotus garden. So yeah, with that though, new beginnings are coming, new horizons are coming. Basically, that also signified that it's also kind of where we are now. We still got about one more month, depending on where you live. February is considered a winter month. And then you have spring. So now is the perfect time to start pre-spring cleaning. And what I mean by that is start pre-planning things that you want to do in the spring. And start getting ideas flowing in your head. Start putting that energy and those intentions outward to the universe to manifest it back into you. So yeah, with that, I will leave you. I think we've had a good live. It's 11:11. I think I did this yesterday. What is up with me doing this almost every day? 11:11. Affirmation, man. Synchronicity. Yeah, so before I actually close this out, I did want to personally say thank you, everybody that views these regularly. Thank you so much for all the comments on the post, all the questions, all the good feedback, all the recommendations. Thank you all so much. Y'all are all amazing, and I couldn't do this without y'all. Like, straight up, I could not do this without y'all. I did want to throw another shout out to Three Sleepy Eyes Apothecary. Amazing. And what else? There was something else I wanted to say. If you do have a business of any sort and kind, please, and you want a shout out or anything like that in this video, or at least me to share your stuff on my page, please drop a, not drop a comment, DM me, direct message me. I do, again, like I stated before, I do provide custom services. I'm on a sliding scale, Fair Trade Act, which is payment, aka I will work with you as much as I can. At the end of the day, though, it's not about money. I offer community candles, custom spells, house blessings if you're close or local, land blessings if you're close or local, and cleansings. I offer different types of readings, oracle readings, tarot readings, intuitive readings, and yeah, and a couple other more things will be in the works, but I'm still prepping the soils on those. But yeah, so again, anything that is donated or any services bought, all the all the funds or anything like that will literally be recycled back into this page. By getting books or information or other stuff that can advance my knowledge, by advancing your knowledge into the craft. Yes, there are amazing things that are in the works. Again, I have a podcast, Fire Lotus the Witch. Actually, you should be able to find me on all platforms now, on anything, Twitter, Instagram, anything, Fire Lotus the Witch. If you go to my YouTube, like a video, subscribe, you don't have to share. With any of my lives, to anybody that is on this page, if you view these and you want to share it away. That's what I personally do after my lives. For the people that don't know, all my platforms are all organic. I don't pay for promotions or anything like that. I try to do it myself. And sharing and getting my name out there and to help people. But I also wanted to state that at the end of the day, it's not about making money. It's not about getting money. It is about changing people's lives, healing people, helping people, and advancing their knowledge. And yeah, if you walk away with learning one new thing, or at least learning a different perspective from listening to or watching my content, I've done my job, and I can go to sleep happy at night. Also, with that being stated, if you find one of these videos or some of my content and something that you hear rings with you true right then and there, even if it's something I talked about a month ago, that is how my energy to these videos and this page is set up. I don't go searching. I help the ancestors and the spirit guides help me. The way that I've kind of talked to them about it is, if you come across me, then there's a reason. Something that I say, or there's a message lying somewhere in it, or I'm supposed to help you in some way, shape, or form. That's how I view it. Either that, or we're just supposed to know each other. With that, for anyone who has liked my page at any point in time, you can always comment. Always feel free to message me. Shoot me a message on any of my platforms. I'm an open book. I love talking. I love discussing stuff, getting to know people, anything like that. I do sometimes suck about carrying on conversations, depending on what the conversation is about. With that, I also do have a specific private group here on Facebook. The only thing to being added to that is you do have to at least, basically, I need to know that you're actually coming and getting these weekly. Like, you're not just a one person, due to my first person, that I had to block due to a derogatory comment that I took as derogatory. But that also means that I'm making it because I'm finally getting haters. That's what I call haters. So yeah, but with that, thank you so much for the people that are in the group. Just like last night, let me try to kind of explain that group. The group that I have, on Facebook is for the people that are truly resonate with me and everything that I preach and I talk. It is to get more people like that. All the people that, all my lotus sprouts, it is to get more people like that and to put them in a close knitted group and or family. Now what I mean by that is all the people that interact on my lives at any point in time. If it's okay with all the other members or all the other people viewing these, feel free to reach out to them too. I am actually trying to create a real close-knitted community of like-minded practitioners, healers, whatever, however you want to call yourself. You don't even have to be a practitioner. You can be a Christian, you can be Catholic, you can be Jewish. I don't care what you are, as long as, you know, we resonate and everything like that. But the point of these videos is not to convert you, it's not to get you to practice magic or anything like that. Honestly, it's just to remind everybody that we do magic every single day, and we are literally people of the stars. And a lot of us, especially the witches out there, we forget a lot of the times, due to how messed up this world is, we forget about our own magic and how truly magic we are. And how magic and how powerful our own magic is. So yeah, I also made these videos, and I wanted to make these videos because I'm hoping that, true enough, these videos and my content is not really for younger people, but I am hoping at some point in time, that, you know, I can help out in anybody, and hopefully the next generation and that next generation will see videos like me and how I dress and the different looks that I do. And the reason that I do those, the makeup and stuff like that, are any face makeup that you see in any of these, I have a personal reason of why they do it. I call it my anxiety war paint, which is for any reason if I'm having anxious or anything like that, me putting that on, it kind of puts me in that mood of I'm going to throw my shit behind me and stand up and do this. But also with that, I dress the way that I dress, aka I dress how I feel, but it's most importantly to show people that you can be who you truly are. I have marched to the beat of my own drum from the very beginning. Before I even understood and knew what marching to the beat of your own drum was. And I'm going to tell everybody who hasn't done that, who's wanted to do that, it's not an easy path. I'm telling you now, if you want to get to that point, and I'm still not fully there yet, but at the end of the day, you have to look at it as my biggest problem is some aspects in my head that's in a way kind of stuck in high school when it comes to my anxiety and stuff. And here recently, actually, I walked in. That's what I wanted to share with y'all. The other day, I walked into Dollar General above my house, and there was a shit ton of people there. No, it was Walmart. It was Saturday. Saturday, I had to go to Walmart. First time in a year. For the first time in my life, when I was not on any type of medication by a doctor, I had to say that. Even though it freaked me the fuck out and there was way too much shit going on and I was complete sensory overload, something new happened as soon as I walked in those doors. For the first time in my entire life, I actually straightened up. And what I mean by that is normally how I am now with like my shoulders bent over. I actually walked in and it was just like something had hit me and I like stood up and like, of course I didn't look at anybody and I had sunglasses on, but that was confidence. That was confidence. I felt confidence for the first time in my entire life. And holy shit. Like, again, I freaked out because due to my agoraphobia, that's one of the things that affects me is when I go out in public, it completely sends my sensory into overdrive. And if you've never had sensory overdrive, it is very, very, it's hell. Your brain and your body is trying to take everything in all at once simultaneously. So it's like complete overload. But the reason I wanted to say these in this videos is because it is because of y'all. It's because of these videos that I have got this confidence that is building every single day more and more and more. And I wanted to personally say thank y'all so much because I have issues. I've been bullied before. My teeth, self-esteem issues, a lot. And to be 27 years old, or 26, wow, I really do want to get older. Not even 27 yet. 26 years old, though, to be able to walk into Walmart. And even though I'm freaking the fuck out with my anxiety, I still felt true confidence was insane. And I'm excited. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, I lied. I'm not going away yet. Okay. I gotta take my jacket off, too. So yesterday, I was on YouTube, and I discovered, I was on Facebook, scrolling through, and I saw this, one of my friends had liked this page, this documentary, and for anybody who doesn't know, I love some documentaries. But it was called Earthing, and it's like 2019, and I'm like, well, wait, I don't know about this. I didn't hear about this. What the fuck is this? Now, of course, for anyone who doesn't know what earthing is, they're basically talking about grounding. Not necessarily what we do in the craft grounding, but kind of like that. Basically, it's you're walking barefoot. Go outside and put your bare feet on the ground for 5 minutes, and I guarantee you're going to feel better. But, getting into that. This woman, the reason, I'm going to tell you the reason of the documentary, the reason it was made, and then what the documentary is about. This woman, though, her and her husband, they make documentaries, or they make B-reel, film stuff. And they were in Louisiana. I think it was Louisiana. Yeah, it was Louisiana right after one of the hurricanes had hit. And the woman, she was introduced to some type of poison or contaminant, and it screwed her body up really bad. So she went to the doctor. She started having like skin rashes. Basically, it almost turned into an autoimmune disorder. The results that she was getting, the side effects she was getting, it was like her body was against itself. Now, I personally don't have an autoimmune disorder, but my grandmother had a extremely rare one. And I took care of her up into her dying moment. My mother has one. My aunt, my nanny's sister, my grandmother's sister has the exact same autoimmune disease that she had, or disorder that she had. And what's scary about that is my grandmother had myasthenia gravis. I hope I pronounced that right. It is a very, very rare autoimmune disease. It affects people differently. But they both had it. That's basically what eventually took her life from it. She asked the doctor, going back to the documentary, she asked the doctor, can I have kids? Because at one point in time, the doctors told them that, you won't be able to have kids. And they said, yeah. So they went ahead and had one. And they had a little girl. Well, she was born with some type of autoimmune disorder or something. But the woman noticed that basically when her daughter was outside, or if the mom was barefoot outside and her feet were touching the ground, that the baby was okay. There's also another actual doctor whose child, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, I'm getting them mixed up. Basically, it's on my page, but basically what this documentary is about is how, like, for example, in one of the stories in there, Native American tribes, or one specific one, out in Arizona, they were there and this girl was sick. So this tribe dug a small little hole and laid her down in it and huddled around her and let her lay there for like a day or two. As the hours kept progressing onward and as the days progressed, she became better and better and better. No medicine, no antibiotics, no nothing. Just earth. And when this guy saw that, he's like, well, wait, why? Like, how? What? Fast forward, this particular guy who saw that, he went to Home Depot and he got metal duct tape, got wire and a rod, put a strip of it on his bed to where he could lay on it, ran the wire outside to the rod and ran the rod into the ground to ground it. And he woke up the following day and he goes, this is the best sleep I've ever had. And he goes, but I thought it was a placebo effect. So I continued doing it. And as he continued doing this over and over and over again, he was getting progressively better and better and better. So finally, after like years of trying to get medical attention, he finally gets a doctor to basically look at him and be like, how about this? I'm going to do everything I can to prove your theory wrong, that grounding can heal people. The doctor was wrong. They actually found that somehow, they don't quite understand the science behind it yet, but it helps, grounding helps, or earthing helps reduce inflammation in the body. Now, just like this guy stated, I thought inflammation was like, when you break a bone or something like that, it's just swelling. It is, but there are different types of swelling in the body or inflammation in the body. For example, inflammation on the brain can cause depression. I didn't know that. And I have really bad hypertension, so that can go hand in hand. But the reason this fascinates me was because my partner does not like camping. He fucking hates it. I love it. And I finally convinced him one of the last times we were on Archer Road, the property we moved off of, I convinced him to do it. And how I did that was, he was complaining because we had just went from, our sleep schedule got mixed up because I went from working graveyard shift to morning shift. And I read and I found out that camping for 3 nights, sleeping on the ground for 3 nights, resets your natural clock. It resets your body's natural clock back to the way it originally was. Technology, computers, and rubber, basically everything that we have right now, it cuts off our connection to the earth. Now, I don't know about you, but I grew up in the South, and I have what my partner calls his country feet, which is barefoot. I can walk on almost any terrain, and it doesn't really bother me. that's also just due to the fact that I used to run around barefooted as much as possible, and once you do that, what happens? You get calluses that, you get thick-skinned feet, basically, country feet. But I can remember that where moments that I can just go outside, and I could remember just like being on the earth or connected to the earth. I felt so much better. Shit, I still have moments where throughout the day I have random feelings that I want to go outside and just lay on the ground. For some reason, that would, in my head, that would bring me more comfort than laying down on a bed. Watching this documentary, they actually found out that it's actually healing. So the woman who had the daughter who had the autoimmune disorder, she started doing it. She's like, well, let's start grounding. So there are other different ways too. Walking barefoot as much as possible. Trying to find a shoe that doesn't have a rubber sole in it, which I think almost is impossible. There are other things, I forgot what it's called, but there are these things that are made out of resin. Normally they're like pyramids, and they have copper and other different crystals, but basically what it does, it's supposed to do like the salt lamp does. When you heat up a Himalayan salt lamp, it takes out the negative ions that our technology gives off and releases positive ions in the air. Well, that's a good thing and a bad thing, because a lot of people don't know is some of those negative ions we actually need, because just like anything, it's a balance. But basically, computers, frequencies, Wi-Fi, EMFs, all of that mess with our natural connection to the earth. And think about this. This makes perfect sense if you look at it also worldwide. To all these people and all the cultures worldwide, or in countries that are third world countries, to where they are doing all of this. They didn't really get away from the land or nature. But this particular woman, her daughter got better. Her daughter was no longer in pain. The doctor who had a child, she had some type of disorder to where the little girl was like constantly in pain, and she realized that when she's holding her girl outside barefoot, her little girl stops crying. The moment she walks back inside, she'll start crying again. So they started grounding. This woman who made the documentary, she started grounding with her daughter. She had something that is not typical, but it also can help, which is she dropped like 60 pounds in like 4 weeks. But it all had to do with, hold that thought, this may get paused. If not, I would continue. My partner's calling me, so hold that thought.